And so the annual Feedlot Tour is a production of the North Dakota Stockmen's Association Feeder Council. And the council members, as you can see here on the screen, are working to promote the feeding and backgrounding industries in North Dakota. So on the screen, you will find those feeder council members, and thank you to our members for your service to the North Dakota Stockmen's Association. And so tonight's agenda does include an inside look at the feedlot on Edgewood Ranch of Fordville, North Dakota, as well as we'll get an update from North Dakota Stockmen's Association Environmental Services Director Scott Ressler. And so before we get to the video portion of the tour, this meeting is again being facilitated by the Red River Farm Network and recognizes the North Dakota Stockmen's Association as the host. All participant microphones have been muted or should be muted, and video capabilities have been turned off, minus our special guest tonight. And so as you watch the video, and if you have a question pop up, to submit a question at any time, you can type them into the chat box option or email your questions to dawn@rrfn.com. Again, you can either type them in the chat box or send an email to Dawn, D-O-N, @rrfn.com. This webinar is also being recorded. All right, so without further ado, let's kick off tonight's tour with the video tour of the feedlot. Both Travis and Scott are on the webinar tonight with us and will answer any questions at the conclusion of the video. So here we go. Here is the feedlot on Edgewood Ranch near Fordville, North Dakota.
Edition. Due to the COVID issues, we've decided to do an annual feedlot tour virtual edition. And so our intention today is to walk you through the facility to show you the components of a permitted animal feeding operation in North Dakota and all the guidelines and the steps that the Edgewood Ranch at Fordville, North Dakota have taken to address those concerns. At the end, there'll be an opportunity to be able to ask questions, and you'll be able to ask Travis or myself any questions, and so we'll look forward to them. So sit back in your chair and enjoy the tour as we head through the system. The annual feedlot tour is a product of the North Dakota Stockmen Association Feeder Council. The Feeder Council provides a means to the North Dakota Stockmen Association where the cattle feeding and backgrounding industry can give direction where it concerns the needs of cattle feeding industry and helps promote the cattle feeding sector in North Dakota. The Feeder Council is made up of 6 directors and 6 alternates located around the state. If interested in learning more about the Feeder Council, call the office at 223-2522 or visit our website at ndstockmen.org.
So I'm Travis Bell. I'm from Fordville, North Dakota. We've got a cow-calf operation. We have a feedlot here, considered the Edgewood Ranch, and we also run sheep, a registered sheep herd of Hampshires and Targies. We are, I am a 4th generation to this family farm. Been around cattle and livestock my whole life. It's always been my passion. I guess with that, we decided to expand, try to help what our future would be and my kids' future. So we built a feedlot back in 2007 with the help of the EQIP program and the health department for water quality assurance. It was to our benefit with our location to take advantage of the feeds and commodities we have in our area. In 2015, we expanded our herd again, buying a registered herd of Semitals, and we now have a annual production bull sale, which is held in conjunction with the Bada brother family from Adams. So we held that sale in February of every year with the registered Semital bulls and females. Generally, we're running a commercial Angus herd, getting into more of the Semitals as we continue to grow that position. Our facility is based on a lot of just co-products, byproducts. A lot of those products consist of beets from the beet factors from beet factories from Drayton and East Grand Forks. We feed a lot of screenings, whether it be barley pearlings, barley screenings, wheat screenings, plenty of corn in our area. We do feed some potatoes come time to time, and obviously the distillers when we can get them. So our new facility of our newer feedlot, we built in like right around the 2016. All our old feed bunk system, what we built in 2008, we used all concrete feed bunks. In the new facility, we changed all of our bunk lines to basically bottomless bunks. With snowfall in our northeast climate, you never know the amount of snow we're going to get, and cleaning bunks with some of the foreign products that we get, we found it much easier that we can just quickly come in here with a skid steer and lift them up, clean them, and put them right back in order. So we really, really like how we've gone from the cement bunks to the bottomless bunks. We've got two different styles. Our first set of bunks that we got were non-adjustable. We just kind of made them. They were just something I designed up. And then we had some adjustable ones as well. We do prefer the adjustable ones when you get into the bigger cattle. If you don't have the adjustable rail in the bottomless ones, the bigger cattle have a tougher time getting the clean out like you should. And with the adjustable lighter cattle versus big cattle, you obviously are, you're stopping the little cattle from crawling through and the big cattle so they can clean up the bunks all the way. But generally, we're happy with going bottomless bunks versus the concrete for our feed systems. Well, again, from our old facility, we only had 12-foot feed aprons, and in the new feedlot, we went to 18-foot. And I guess that was kind of just an experience thing, learning after a few years, scraping pads, 10 or 12 feet pads, it's fine for the cattle to stand on, but all the manure basically goes on the ground and not on the pad. And if you consistently scrape your pads like you should, the 18 to 20-foot pads are a huge advantage because that manure is staying on the pad and it's not deteriorating the backside of that slab. So they're walking off better. So the new feedlot is basically holds about 800 to 1,000 head depending on bunk space. And all the concrete pads are 18 feet wide. And our main delivery road is still our in and out for our cattle. And that basically consists of about 22 feet wide cowboy alley, and that's basically our feed delivery line as well. So in our newer feedlot, we went with energy-free fountains. We've already had plenty of Ritchie fountains with all electric heaters in them, and I guess it was kind of a cost savings things why we kind of went this way. We didn't have to dig any electrical lines in, and not only that, I guess even with our electrical heaters, we seem to still be out checking them and still have frozen waters every day. So we went this route, never had any before. So we stuck, I think we got about 6 of these in right now. And for the most part, we are happy with them. We don't have to buy heating elements every other year for the expense of that, the electricity going behind them. They still do freeze. I won't say they're just bulletproof. They freeze, but the majority of it is you just knock the ice out and you go again. So that part is pretty nice. We didn't put any concrete underneath these, we didn't put any concrete along these so far. Like I said, this is about our 4th year going into them. You got to do a little bit of maintenance on them, pushing up some more gravel or whatever around them, but for the most part, we haven't seen the need to actually put concrete around them either. So all of our existing Ritchie fountains do have cement concrete pads. They're big singles and double bowls. As you can see, the dogs are chowing down on it now. But you can split these pens, I guess, for water. I guess the biggest thing is you got to remember what time of year it is. I mean, when cattle eat, they all come to the water at one time. So adding enough water space is kind of a crucial thing, not only in the winter, but in summertime too. So more water is always better than less. So we always kind of put all the double bowls. but we have the convenience, if we ever wanted to split a pen, we can just split these right down the middle and still divide our pens is equal, I guess. So we have our climates are so cold and we don't know how long we're going to have them. We do a fair amount of bedding. It's nothing for us to bed 3-4 days a week. So straw is our main bedding tool. If we can get corn stover bales, we'll use them as well. That just kind of goes hand in hand with the portable windbreaks. We're able to move them and place them out of the way when we're cleaning for manure. The nice thing about the newer facility that we built is everything's adjustable, so you never know what size the head counts are going to be. So we build our pens to head counts. So if we need to move our bunks, we need to move our windbreaks, it's just a matter of sizing the pen to amount of cattle. And that makes it pretty convenient for our customers and for ourselves to match the pen and the size for the cattle. For our windbreaks in our newer facility Feedlot, we went everything portable. We did a super steel, 24-foot long. We used drill stem as our tubing. We found this so we can clean, we just lift them up, we can move them wherever we want them. We find that to be pretty convenient. So we're down here in our original facility where the first feedlot we started and built, the 999 head capacity. These are just the concrete bunks that we use. As far as the neck rails, we concreted the drill stem into the concrete. We used the guardrail, non-adjustable. So far we've had no issues. Nobody cuts their head off or anything like that with the guardrail. It's bulletproof. You know, we do have to shovel these bunks out. We don't have a bunk blower. Just don't have enough bunks, so we got enough manpower and we like to work, so we just shovel. Over here we got the Ritchie water fountain. Like I said, these are the fountains we put in when we first started, thinking that was the way to go. Good, bad, or the other. Concrete, we have a concrete water. That might have been better. I think it's just personal preference. The one thing with the old facility with the new versus the new facility, we have lights and electricity, obviously, in all the pens in the old facility, and it is kind of a convenience. So in the wintertime, we do open up a couple of these pens to calve in and out of. So it does make it kind of handy to come in here. In the old facility or the new facility, we don't have any lights because there's no electricity. We have not had any issues because of that yet. Would it be nice at times? Yes, for incoming, receiving cattle, just trucks showing up middle of the night like they always do. So going out there without a flashlight, but most of the time, I don't know, we got nature's beauty, the moonlight showing us how to get there. So we make it work. So here we have our loadout facility. I think I've rebuilt this. This is the second time I've rebuilt this. This time I think I've built it to where I won't have to rebuild it again. The first structure I built back in 2007 or 2008, we just had wood posts braced up the top with just super steel. It worked great for a long time. We ran thousands of cattle in and out through it. Over the years, though, we knew it wasn't going to be a long-term deal, and that's what I've kind of found out about even our holding corrals. We built that. I've had to build that for the second time. First time I went with just continuous fence, wood posts. The second time I did all drill stem, all guardrail, all heavy steel. I guess if you're heavy use traffic with a lot of cattle, I just highly recommend spending the money right up front. It may cost a lot, but at the end, it'll be way cheaper going with all heavy duty. So with this facility here that I built, I made it in 2 sections. And the idea I have behind it is when we're working cattle in pastures and we're not at home, I got one 24-foot section and one 32-foot section. I use guardrail, I use drill stem. I used just rubber belting on the end of the guardrail to get rid of my sharp edges on the guardrail. I put wheels in on the top so I can make it adjustable, whether I'm working 600-pound calves or if I'm working 1,200 or 1,600-pound cows coming through here. So with that, the idea of to eliminate my turnarounds and stuff like that. And for what I used for the adjustment, I've seen a lot of different ideas where they've had notches on the bottom or pins notched on top and pin and you move it. On this particular style, I haven't totally mastered or got all my jacks, but I just used a hand crank jack and I can adjust it just one on each end and I can make it move as whatever width I think so. My max width, I believe, is 32 inches, which is, you can get big bulls still through at 32 inches, and I'm sure I can get it down to about 20 inches. So for the most part, I think we're going to hit all the size variations we need. Bracing, we still got some work to do. We're going to brace our drill stem posts over the top of the guardrail. And the idea behind that is if you don't brace, you're eventually going to start pushing that fence out. So highly recommend putting in bracing. It's worth the time and effort to do it right. Along with this alley, so we got, I think, 56 feet of alley here. We've loaded, I can't even count how many semis. Our old alley was the same length. It was 50 feet plus, and this one's 56. The idea that we have behind that is once the cattle go, we can load trucks very fast and efficient. A lot of truckers are always amazed when they come here how fast we can get them in and out of here. We can load 7-8 trucks in just as little as 2 hours. So we've got no issues there. The other thing that we're doing that we didn't do before is we put a swing gate at the end of our chute so we can back our stock trailer up right next to the loading chute. And so now we can use the same facility for loading either stock trailers or a semi. And we're going to find that a huge asset when we're moving more cattle, just take the stress away from the cattle. You know, the screaming, the hollering, the hot shots. The idea is just keep comfort at them, make it all easier, I guess. If you build it right, everything goes right. So we're inside our calving barn slash working facility barn. We built this barn, I think, probably around 2012, 2013. Our old existing facility was just in the great open doors, and we always had the plan to put up a shed after the feedlot was built, just didn't have the resources to do it at that time. So when we did finally get the go-ahead doing it, we put up a 60 by 100 shed. I think the sidewalls are 16 feet, so we can still drive machinery or tractors in here during the off-season time. Again, this is kind of I had my first facility. I had just a regular crowd tub, and it had a curved alley into it. And the curved alley, it worked, but we always had cattle. We never had the flow of cattle the way we wanted it to, and it wasted a lot of space in our barn. So actually, summer of 2019, finally made the go ahead. We sold the curved alley, and we actually kept the tub system. So we it's kind of similar to a bud box, but you could use it either or as a bud box or still the tub issue. But then we bought a double alley, straight alley into a single straight alley. So what it is, it's a 14-foot double, two 14-foot double lanes, and then it goes into a 12-foot single lane. And we got one door coming into the barn where it's our loading facility, where we're processing calves. Somebody can always be loading calves while the other crew is working them. And then we have another door set up in front of the chute where we are just constantly kicking them out. So far, we are very happy with this. The cattle are seeing their exit right away. They are moving freer. So we're on the working facility side here right now. Over the years, we never had concrete pad underneath all this. We added this when we added the new single and double alley. And then you really find out how bad your feet hurt standing on concrete all day, given processing calves or whatnot. So my daughter had a old gymnastics pad that sat and did nothing after her gymnastics career, went down the toilet. And so we took the gymnastics pad and we shoved that where we're working on. And, it doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but 3 inches of foam underneath your feet feels like another 4 hours at the end of the day if you have a long day of working cattle. So that was one big bonus, whether it's a rubber pad, but this right here, what we're standing on, or I'm standing on, is just a gymnastic pad, and it works tremendous. We also put ceiling fans when we built the barn over our facility, kind of for our comfort, cattle comfort, flies, whatever. They work. If anything, I would suggest probably putting bigger blades on them so you get more airflow. The other thing I gotta suggest is lighting is going to be a huge issue. I mean, there's no such thing as too much lighting in here. So the big factor we have here is we try to sort most of the cattle before they come into the chute area. But obviously, you know, you miss a bull, you miss a steer or a heifer, or when we're PG and you have open cows and your bred cows, we have the ability here that we can sort right out of our chute. So Scott's running the gate here. We could, one way goes through the barn and one way goes straight. So whether we have doctoring to do on a calf later on or it needs to be attention to, we basically have 2 pens outside the building. And so 2 doors on the north side, one's on the east, one's on the west. And so we have just one swing gate here where they exit the chute, and if they're open or they need attention, we just run the gate the other way, and we basically can still have a 2-way sort. So if the guy is out back or missing a sort, or I miss a sort, we can still catch them coming through the chute. So this is our new feeding program that we just put in and started using in the fall of 2019. We've always kind of been in look for what kind of a program we could use to make our custom feeding and just our own facilities more economical and affordable, I guess. So this is a Performance Beef, it's called, program. This program literally keeps track of all of our feed inventories, shots, any type of pricing you put into your cattle, you can enter it into this system. So basically in our feed trucks and delivery, we either feed off this iPad or our iPhones. And so it keeps track of your pen scores, your daily feed. If you overfed an ingredient, it'll keep track of that. Basically keeps track of every pound you ever fed. Your deliveries, your head counts. I mean, it literally, it does it all. You set your rations, you pick your rations. It's made our life out here so much easier, whether I'm doing feeding or the next guy. You could have 4 guys feeding, and you can go back on your phone and I can literally tell where they're at in feeding. I can tell what they overfed in on an ingredient. It scores, like I said, you can score the bunks, you can put your death loss in here, you can put your treats in here, all the pens. This has really been a huge saving for our program. We bill out on it. Basically just covers all costs. So this is probably the new life-saving thing that we have out here on the ranch that we really find is probably the most valuable to so far in the feedlot. So I guess I'd just like to say thanks for taking in the virtual tour of Edgewood Ranch and Bell Family Semitals. We really appreciate the interest of them taking us as consideration and doing this out here. At this time, I guess I kind of want to introduce my kids. This is my son, Lane. He's attending college at NDSA. I got my youngest child here, Kale. He's going to be, I think, at 5th grade. 4th grade, yeah. And my daughter, Cody, who's going to be now a freshman in high school. We're all very active of being involved with the livestock, whether it's sheep or the cattle. And I guess, like I said, without family and friends, you know, none of this would be possible. You know, this has always kind of been my dream of doing what I wanted to do. But without the appreciation of family and my parents, Arden and Marcy Bell, this really wouldn't be possible. So I guess that's just kind of a contribute is always make sure you're thankful enough to all the people that are helping you in what you do, because there's more than just one person out there that accomplishes things for one another. So just appreciate those who help you with everyday things, and life will be a better place. At this time, you know, if anybody has any questions for me, I guess, whether it's the facility or our genetics of our cattle or our operation, we'd be more than happy to have anybody go ahead and ask away. And if anybody ever wants to come see the facility, they're more than welcome to give me a call and we'll give them the tour.
Well, perfect. I will go ahead and get Scott and Travis unmuted here. There we go. And so just for reference before we get into Q&A here, but that full video, I know technology is wonderful. Sometimes we have glitches, but that full video is available if you go to YouTube. Search for the Red River Farm Network YouTube page, and you can go ahead and find that video of the Feedlot tour if you want to review it. So now, Scott, Travis, I'll call on you. We do have a question or two on my end that has come in, but first, Scott, I'll let you start leading some of the facilitation of the Q&A portion here, and two, be sure to type a question in the chat box if you do have one. So, Scott.
Sure, thanks, Megan. As you know, everyone knows the beef industry plays a significant role in North Dakota agriculture. We're a predominantly cow-calf state, and we have about 980,000 mother cows in North Dakota. The backgrounding industry, plays a large segment of the beef industry in North Dakota. And interesting enough, we feed to finish around 60,000 head of those 980,000 cattle. And so we know that there's lots of room to finish some more cattle and possibly even background some cattle longer. We have about 200 permitted feedlots in North Dakota. And the reason that we have that many that have taken that step like Edgewood Farms has done is the North Dakota Stockmen Association Environmental Services Program was started in 2002 to help producers address the water quality concerns on their animal feeding operations. It is a voluntary, confidential, obligation-free program available to all North Dakota beef producers. And the idea is just to address these environmental concerns on the animal feeding operations. We have a stewardship support program, which is the cost share segment of the program. These cost share dollars apply to all the components of the operation that support the environmental and animal health improvements. And so if you're interested, just give me a call here at the office at 223-2522 or visit our website at ndstockmen.org. I appreciate all the interest that we've had on this, and I guess, Megan, we're ready for questions.
Sure thing. So I guess the first one we have in for you, Travis, is they're wondering more about the various co-products that you feed. What kind of performance are you getting from those co-products and screenings that you're feeding out?
I guess the biggest thing with that is when we're going for some of our customers' cattle, I guess it just really depends on what our target weight is. I mean, there's some products out there that, yes, they're going to be more based on the barley purling side. They're going to be more set aside for a filler on the cow side of things. So generally, we try to shoot for a 2 1/4, 2.5 pound gain. Using our barley screenings or barley purlings, those are some things that don't always work to hit those targets, but for a filler they do. Wheat mids are, if you can buy wheat mids right, they work. Wheat screenings, they're rarely available at certain times. It's kind of a hit and miss, I guess. But our biggest thing is still probably corn screenings, distillers, dry distillers, wet distillers. You still gotta just keep the main cost of your freight down, and the cattle out there right now are so genetically have so much performance in them that it's not hard to get them those gains out of this poor quality feed.
Thanks, Travis. And another question regarding the performance beef system. They want to know more about that. Who developed the system? And then did you consider other options before going with this system? Or, what made you choose it?
It was just kind of ran into it by a friend, just another fellow feedlot, basically. I was in Aberdeen delivering cattle to a sale barn, and actually it was Kevin Larson, the owner of Aberdeen Livestock, and he's like quizzing me on my feed costs and this and that. And of course we start comparing, as cattlemen always would, you know, and he's like, you got to come look at this. And he basically kind of brought me into his office and started sharing it with me. And so, yeah, once I saw it, I kind of was like, it's kind of exactly what I was looking for. I mean, it literally, you know, it is a true cost of what it is actually costing us to feed these cattle. I mean, whether you are just a cow calf or you're doing your own backgrounding, I mean, you literally pencil in every cost and waste into this program, and it's a real eye opener. But I tell you what, it saves a lot of headaches. I mean, everybody used to go back to the piece of paper, pencil and paper, and you never knew if you overfed one ingredient or another. You know, it was just all an oops and forgot about the next day. I mean, we literally can track our cattle if they went off feed for whatever reason. You know, we can go back 3, 4 days, 20 days, and we can say what kind of pattern are they on. We can look at graphs. So, but yeah, I mean, it's been a lifesaver. I mean, I haven't looked at many other programs, but so far working with this group, they have a 24-hour, 7 days a week. You can call them; they're always available. So when you got troubleshooting to do with anything, they're available.
And so a follow-up question for you, Travis, just for me personally, is wondering about the usability of the program. How easy is it to learn how to use? Because, you know, we all carry one of these around with us, an iPhone, you know, so maybe for somebody older, like my dad's age per se, can they learn how to use it too?
You know, I mean, I'm not very computer literate either, so I'll be pretty honest about that. But, you know, setting it up is probably the hardest part about it, but actually it really isn't that hard once you just start, you know, using it. So, I mean, let's just say for your hired men, once it's set up and they're actually going to just use the feed side of it, I mean, it's literally just, you know, load one and you know, you can put multiple pens into one TMR mix load. And so it's very easy. It's just push button. I find it pretty user friendly. My employees find it very user friendly. So yeah, I guess I don't think anybody would have too big of an issue getting started on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like anything. You start big, you start small, but you keep learning every day. It's just like life.
Yep, certainly. And two, and Scott, you can help chime in on this too. One thing that we didn't get to feature in the video was your holding pond system, and I know that's a big part of the environmental services program side of it. And so, can we talk more about that? We did get some pictures of it that we will be able to share on social media later. But can we talk about that holding pond system a little bit?
Yeah, you know, all these permitted systems have this component of that we have to contain the runoff, and we showed Travis's a little bit there. And it's always interesting when we get out to the site and we start surveying it. It's usually a lot bigger than most of the producers think, and the reason it is, it's designed to hold 365-day storage, a 25-year, 24-hour rainfall event, and then a foot of freeboard. And so it can be a large hole in the ground, if you will. Interesting enough, we use all the dirt out of that pond to build the rest of the facility, so we got to get dirt from somewhere anyway. So it really works out twofold as well. The other interesting part that people always, you know, want to that it has an odor to it, and you know, we've been to a lot of facilities in July and August, and really there's no more odor off that pond than there is off our pens in the spring of the year when that, you know, that freezing thawing action happens. But the pond is a significant part of it. Travis has to manage his. I believe he has had to pump it out. And so that is a management issue that goes along with the feedlot and getting a permitted system. I have a question for Travis. We started the video out with your roof over your co-product shed. Can you tell us the dimensions of that shed? And then I also see that it's already plumb full. So tell me how big you wish you would have built it.
Never build them big enough, Scott, and that's always the answer you're going to get. I believe that one is 48 by 60, and yes, we have intentions. If you notice, looking back at that shed, it doesn't have a back wall on it yet, and we kind of left it open for the fact that we probably were gonna maybe wanting it bigger, and that's the main reason why we did. So, for us, yeah, I mean, like our products, a lot of them don't go in a bin well. They're either gonna get stuck in there, and so you need augers, manpowers, and I guess for us, it's the easiest thing. We run a live bottom trailer, and payloader pushes it up. So yeah, we can fit lots in there. I mean, the reasoning that it's full right now, I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, there's better times of buying feed, and obviously, the off season for most cattle feeders is in the summer when everybody's cattle are out on grass and whatnot. So, I mean, it is a good time for people to look at what their plans are for the winter, and the shed is a good investment for our end. The biggest thing is, yeah, we need to make it a little bit bigger yet for the amount of cattle we're trying to feed, though.
And two, I will remind people, if you do have a question for Travis or Scott as well, type it into the chat box, or you can send an email to Don, D-O-N, @rrfn.com. And Travis, I have another question for you as well, just because I've been to your farm. I know where you're situated. When you were designing and expanding your feedlot, working on, your holding pond, that sort of thing, your placement, you're along a river. What did you take into consideration when trying to expand your space?
Well, I mean, obviously with the first feedlot, that was a huge learning curve for me. I mean, going from just kind of a small cow-calf operation, going to not just the 999 head facility. Drainage is huge. We found that out right away when we ended up getting a 7-8 inch rain. Would I do the first feedlot differently? Absolutely, I would. Did I learn something a little bit different for the second one? Yes. You don't want to ever have too many pens going into the same drain. If you could actually just keep them one drain, and so you had access to keep it clean on the backside, that's kind of what my recommendations would be. We have hills in our feedlot, which actually are a challenge in the wintertime with snow and ice. We find it, there's difficulties to that. You would think the slopes are great for the cattle, but when they're great for the cattle, it might not be great for the equipment you use. So there's always challenges, I guess, and the feedlot's basically just like a tractor. I mean, it's constant maintenance, and it's constant fixing and whatnot. But getting away from the river, yes, it has been beneficial that we don't have to worry about a flood coming through where our old facility was for, whether it was going to wipe it all out for all the work you can do to it and not have anything left when it's over. So, yeah.
Yes.
Travis,
And go ahead, Scott.
Travis, you've chosen feed bunks to use in your facility. Would you consider feeding on the ground? People always ask me, should I feed on the ground or feed in the bunks? Could you just tell us about your personal preference of why you chose the bunks versus feeding on the ground?
I guess we have fed on the ground before as well. I think you can feed on the ground if you're set up. I would strongly suggest using a 2 to 3 foot cement apron where you feed. However, I do know that you are wasting more feed when you do feed that way. It gets pushed out, and if you are just on all gravel material, anytime in the spring or certain times of the year, that mud and everything else is going to get pushed into that feed. And if you try to windrow it, which most of the time, most farmers don't have that much time on their hands because they already got 6 more projects they're behind on. So it doesn't usually work to go back and push it up. So, in the winter, it's great when you got full frozen concrete because it's free, because you're not going to push all them other foreign materials into the line of the cattle. But from our experience, we didn't like it. It just the cattle couldn't reach it. They always seemed they were uncontent on the feed. They couldn't reach it or whatnot. So yeah, we just liked the bunks, I guess, in the feedlot.
And so, Scott, we actually have a question for you, talking more about the cost share that's available through the North Dakota Stockmen's Association's Stewardship Support Program. What type of things are classified as cost shareable, and can the association work with some other cost share programs such as EQIP? Can you provide more details on that?
Sure. So the cost share program, we cost share up to $210,000 of items necessary to get the facility upgraded to meet all the environmental guidelines and restrictions. It's a 60% cost share. And so essentially we have to have a total cost of a project of about $350,000. Interestingly enough, most of these facilities, when we design them from zero to the finish line, with the concrete heavy use pad, all the dirt work that goes into the facility, they're around the $500 a head. And so it doesn't take us really long to get up to that maximum available cost share of $210,000. So the items that are available for cost share essentially is everything that we would need out in that facility, from all the dirt work, the water lines, the water tanks, the windbreak, the feedlot fencing, the gravel access roads, the concrete aprons. So I say all that's available for cost share, but every one that we've done, we've run out of cost share before we get to the bottom of the list of all the items that are cost shared. So essentially we just plan it. It's a $210,000 incentive payment, if you will. And really what we use to cost share, what the producer puts in, it's really the producer's choice. At the end of the day, the producer is usually putting in more money than the available cost share is available. But $210,000 does go a long ways. And most of our producers, of those 200 that I mentioned that have got permitted systems, they would have accessed those funds that are available. And it's available to anyone that's interested in the beef industry in North Dakota. And so I encourage you to contact our office, and we'd certainly be able to come out and start the steps rolling.
So we have about 7 minutes left here to take some questions. And so, Scott, as you were walking through the feedlot, anything else that stuck out? I know it's hard when people can't be gathered there, but you took some detailed notes. Anything else that you might want to point out and have Travis talk about?
I'd like Travis to talk about this big misnomer that we can't feed cattle in the North Country, and certainly Travis is about as north as we can get in the northeast part of the state. And so, Travis, could you help people understand that how we can feed cattle in North Dakota, and we're really good at it?
Yeah, I mean, in all reality, I mean, our costs for feeding cattle up in our country, it's probably cheaper than most places, in the Midwest. I'd say we're very competitive. Are there challenges? Yeah, there's, the weather has always been a challenge, I guess, some degree. I think our colder climate does play a pretty good part in it, but, for our location being near the Red River Valley, I mean, we have just such an abundance of feed source, and along with feed sources, there's a lot of pasture land available and stuff, but, our winter climates, I mean, we still get great gains out of these cattle. I mean, if there's one downfall, this whole thing is probably the shipping of the cattle. If it was going to a finishing yard, it is challenging. If you go from here to Dakota City, Nebraska to Tyson Foods, it's about a $40 to $45 a head on a fat cattle. So Aberdeen's got a kill plant. You can take that price about half to 20 to 25. But then, your premiums might not be as good as Tyson. And there are things that we definitely weigh out. But I mean, the northern climate doesn't really stop cattle from eating or performing. I mean, the genetics behind everybody's cattle nowadays is so good that you surely don't see any flaws. I mean, you see more and more cattle doing open grazing in the winter up here and trying it just because they can handle it.
And we did have a question here, Travis. Somebody wants to know more about your cattle genetics on your farm. What's your basis for your genetic profile?
So we've always been coming out of this fourth generation. The only thing I got preached for years was Angus cattle, so it was kind of a different step of direction when I got into the Simmental direction. But you know, my dad was always an Angus influencer, and he tried the first Simmental at the farm on all our Angus cows. We saw a 75-pound increase alone, just switching genetics, you know, heterozygous and switching our breeds up. And then we got the opportunity to get into the Simmental breed. And, you know, there's a lot of cattle breeds out there that are good, so I'm never going to say there's a bad one or not, but good cattle always sell, I guess. And so, you know, if you strive to the ones that are functional, you look for productivity. I mean, average daily gains, yearling weights. I do believe in the feedlot side of things that we are getting some of these cattle too small again. It isn't hard to see steers weighing out at 1,100 pounds on some of these British cattle. So I do find it, frame score has got to come back a little bit on some of these cattle. And that goes back in hand in hand on how these yearling weights and wean weights contribute back to the cowman. I mean, it just, you got to have pounds there to sell. And for these guys selling a lot of calves right at weaning time, or even putting them back running, you know, that's what we're striving for, is just functional cattle that work for us, and they're going to work for somebody else as well.
Well, certainly. Thanks, Travis. And I do have a few housekeeping items to get to, but before I get to those, Scott, anything else on your list?
Just want to appreciate everybody taking the time to watch this virtual tour, if you will. Obviously, you see we had a nice day. Travis was a great host. He got more comfortable. As you can see, he had his empty coffee cup that he carried around, but you can see that he did a good job, and his facility was well represented in our tour. So I want to thank him, and I want to thank the folks at Red River Farm Network for coming up with this idea, and I sure appreciated working with them.
Well, perfect. So one more final last question that did just come in that Don sent my way from somebody. It says, did you ever consider building over an open lot, slot floor, or hoop barn, or any type of other type of structure for your feedlot, Travis?
Yes, we have. You know, and those, you know, I guess when we were first building the pens and all that, it was never a thought process 10, 15 years ago, doing the barns. But actually now, going over these wet cycles and some of our extreme winters, I have thought about, you know, putting up a hoop barn or, you know, monoslope barns. I do think we could economically make them work in our country for our climate. And people don't always put into consideration what, you know, gravel or fill costs to put back into these feed yards. Just because the cattle leave and more cattle come in, your pens just aren't automatically ready. It takes a lot of money of fill and gravel or concrete and rock and all these things that just keep adding up. And sometimes you almost wonder if building or you know, slatted floors or something like that would work. And obviously we got to think about the other side of things, is the fertilizer that's going to come out of it. You know, we're basically kind of an organic place around here for all of our crops, and you know, we flourish in how they look in our pastures. Everything's, you know, it's a win-win situation.
Well, perfect. Well, again, thanks for joining us, Travis and Scott. Just a couple housekeeping things. I'd also this evening like to remind you of some of the upcoming events from the North Dakota Stockmen's Association. That includes the All Breeds Cattle Tour, October 2nd through the 3rd in the Minot area, and their annual convention, the 91st Annual Convention and Trade Show. That is October 8th through the 10th in Bismarck. And finally, tomorrow's Top Hands Beef Leadership Summit, October 22nd through the 24th in Minot. And so again, this webinar was being recorded. So if you would like to go back and review some of the questions or share it with a friend, that will be available in the coming days. So check the association's website and social media pages for that link. And as I mentioned, we did take some pictures of the feedlot tour. Again, in the coming days, we'll be uploading some photos from Edgewood Ranch, and those will be available on Facebook, just in case you want to review any of the feedlot features in detail. And two, this video that we did show tonight of the virtual tour, available on YouTube. Just search for the Red River Farm Network YouTube page, and you can find it there. Thanks everybody for sticking with us tonight, even through some of the technical glitches. And thank you all again so much for joining us.